This is the MHS Pawdcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS. I'm Eddie Kalegi. A big show today. First, we'll be joined by Miss Wisniewski for the annual trivia show here on the MHS Podcast, and then Josh Hyman and I will discuss all the latest in a very successful start to the 2019-20 MHS winter sports season. But before all that, here are the school announcements from Sarah Terracina.
Thank you, Eddie. The January Principals newsletter is now available on the school website. There is a new school procedure as of January 2nd, and the items that parents or guardians will be dropping off to students during the school day will be located to a table in the vestibule. Parents will not be able to enter the building. You will be responsible for picking up your own items. Follow us on Twitter at MHS Pawdcast for updates regarding all of our winter sports coverage. We thank everyone who has turned in for our broadcasts already this season. There is no school on Monday, January 20th for observance of Martin Luther King Day. Lastly, the final day of the second marking cycle and the first semester is Tuesday, January 28th. That's all for announcements. Back to you, Eddie.
Thank you, Sarah. Now it's time for our holiday trivia show. Continuing here on the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS, I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
Well, it's that time of year again where we do our annual trivia show. I was actually listening to the old ones and figuring it out. You got more questions right freshman year. I got more questions right last year. So maybe a little more on the table as we'll try to see who can have the bragging
tie
rights
this year.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens. And it's great to be joined once again by our club advisor, Miss Wisniewski. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How you doing?
Good.
Good. So you want to get started? Jump right in?
Absolutely.
Okay, the first question I have for you is, who is the current Metuchen School District's board president?
Is that Justin Manley?
Bam.
How do you even know that?
Watching Board of Ed
Why
meetings
don't you know
on
that?
Metuchen Media.
There's no. Do you actually do that? And you remember that?
It's also on the website. So if you ever go on the website, you could just read
Oh
it.
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, what current Metuchen High School staff member has been here the longest? And how many years, if you could guess?
Like, does that include subs and all that?
The longest staff, longest faculty member.
Is that like-
Subs, the subs are applicable, but they really wouldn't apply because the staff member's been here longer than any sub in the building.
I know where your mind was going with the subs, but yeah.
I'm honest, yeah. I want to say Mr. Holleran.
Close, but nope.
Dr. Kamen.
Close to. Actually, those are the second and third.
All right, well, we're on the right track here.
I'm trying to think here. Just all the old teachers.
Older. Let's be polite.
Older teachers. Yeah, my apologies.
I was
Miss
thinking,
Gazda? No.
No.
I was thinking of Mr. Scudney, but he retired.
Yes, he did.
I'm drawing a blank here.
Want me to give you a hint?
Yes.
He's a coach. A sports coach.
Is it Mr. Thomas?
Yes, it is.
wow.
Bam. Do you know how many years he's been here?
Well, I know Mr. Holland's been here like 37, so it's got to be upwards.
Like 40
of that.
maybe?
Yeah.
41 years.
41.
All right.
Okay, who's considered the most successful graduate from Metuchen High School?
David Copperfield?
Very good.
Oh, wow,
And
okay.
that was according to Forbes magazine. And do you know what his net worth is?
Like 200 million?
No, $63 million.
Oh, I was way off.
Still very successful.
$63 million, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take 63 million any day.
Okay, what basketball team recently retired the number 2 and who wore it?
Derek Jeter, the Yankees?
Bam. Okay, I had to throw sports questions in there.
Yeah.
You know, they're not my forte, but what year was the first podcast?
Metuchen High School Podcast?
No,
Podcast
you know that.
overall.
You started it. That wouldn't be a
Yeah,
fair
that'd be
question.
kind of a problem if we didn't know that. I want to say like 1992,
Nope. A little later.
97,
Later.
99,
Later.
2002,
Later.
2005.
Earlier.
2004.
Bam. February 2004 was the first podcast. I thought you might have known that because, you know, you're now you have a little trivia.
No, I remember last year you actually asked us when was the first radio broadcast. And
Yeah.
that was where my mind at first went to.
Well, that would have been
Way back.
Yeah, that was before
1800s.
TV even. Yeah. Okay, how many years has radio existed?
142,
Less.
100,
More.
135,
Less.
101,
More.
128,
Less.
115,
More.
120.
More.
122.
More.
123.
More.
124.
Bam.
All right.
124
Dang.
years. It was in last year I did ask. It was 1895, which makes that 124 years ago. Okay. Who is the new art, music, and world language supervisor?
Miss J.
Bam. You got that.
She just came into our class the other day. I should have known that.
Yep. The new art supervisor. She's a new supervisor. What are the emergency snow days for this year?
We have a calendar in my kitchen where we print it out
It's,
every year, so I might know.
What is it?
There are three.
I think it is. I think I know this one. Is it April 1st?
No. There's 3 of them, so you get 3 guesses.
Okay, I know the one oddball one because I was just looking at the calendar. Is it March 13th?
That's one of them.
Wait, so we just don't have school
We
that
have
day,
school.
or?
We don't have school right now.
We do. Currently, we don't have school on that day. The way this makeup snow days
That's
works.
kind of
is
weird.
it-
That's kind of just out of nowhere.
Well, they did that. Do you know what we do? Because that's considered a long month. So we have no days off in March.
Oh, right.
So by doing that, it breaks the month up. So it's a nice way.
I never thought about that we
Yeah.
don't have any days
Yeah,
off.
I was on a calendar committee years ago, and we spoke to the superintendent about that, saying like it'd be nice if we did that because like when you have, it's 31 days and it's a long month too.
Yeah.
You don't have a break. It's a long month.
Well, since you were on the committee, thank you for giving us that
Well,
tentative
no, that was an
day
idea.
off
We
in
don't have
March.
any. There's no more calendar committees. Teachers don't really have any control over calendar.
Oh.
These are just suggestions made. The Board of Education, the superintendent.
What if we
ultimately make up our
suggested just
calendar.
give ourselves
Yeah,
just the
teachers
month
don't
of
have any control.
May off?
Huh?
If we just suggested to give ourselves the month of May off?
But the thing is, this is what a lot of students don't realize. Like, a lot of people are like, yay, snow day. We, by law, have to have 180 days. So we don't
Thanks,
get
New
a free day
Jersey.
off. We make that day up. So I would rather, honestly, make a day. I would rather have a day I could use and do things on than to sit there and shovel snow and eat junk all day and
That's
already
true.
have gotten up early and showered and then been called saying we have a snow day.
Yeah.
That's my own personal.
No, that's the annoying thing. Our school always calls them at like 5:30 in the morning.
Well, that wouldn't annoy me because, see, I'm already showered and almost out the door at that time. That's why it
I'm
bothers
not.
me. I get here at 6 in the morning, so that's why I would like them to call even earlier.
So
Selfishly.
March 13th is one of the days. Is it the Friday of President's Day weekend? Like,
Yes, it is. You don't know. If you don't know the date, that's fine.
I think it's the 14th from
Yes,
what I
it
saw.
is.
Oh, wow. Okay, I am on the roll.
Damn,
What month
yes,
is
you
that?
are.
What month is that?
February.
February, okay.
And I'll just say this to you, a hint. It's sequential. So what's the next month?
It's in April. It's probably like the last day of spring break that we have right now. It's probably like the day after Easter, around there.
It's actually Easter Monday.
Easter Monday, okay.
Yeah, which would be April 13th. Okay, name 2 basketball coaches who had more than one tenure as head coach.
At Metuchen or?
At
okay.
Metuchen.
Didn't Coach Glutz?
That's one. And who's the other one?
I'm trying to think here.
Hint to female. Another female.
Gazda?
Yes. So you each get like a point for
Yeah.
that one. Are you guys keeping tally? I'm not.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not counting. I'm not sure.
Neither am I.
Well,
so-
I'll go back.
We can
and
just
listen,
review
and
the
then
audio, yeah.
Next year for senior year, we can tell everybody.
Who is the school's leading point scorer in basketball?
Art Flaherty?
No. Who's the school's leading point scorer in basketball? Again, it's a female.
Is it Cassie Smith?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bam, you got it. Okay, so those are your 10 questions.
All right. Well,
I tried to do most, not most, but a lot sports, and I did a lot Metuchen this year. So.
and a little radio and podcast thrown in there as well.
Yeah, you have to. You
Yeah.
have to, right? That's what you're all about.
Well, thank you for joining us today for the annual trivia show. So when we come back, we'll be talking about Metuchen High School sports. So much going on in athletics, especially this past Saturday. So we'll get into all of that. I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
And this is the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS.
Having trouble seeing the board in class? Do you need safety glasses for your school sport? If you answered yes to either of these questions, head over to Optique Unique, the eyeglass store at 406 Main Street in Metuchen. Optique Unique does it all. Not only do they offer eyewear for all ages, they also sell sports-specific safety glasses for kids and adults. Call them at 732-321-2020. That's 732-321-2020, or visit OptiqueUnique.com. Do you want to build character? build confidence, or even build yourself? All that and more can be accomplished at the Black Belt Institute at 23 New Street, right here in Metuchen. Students of all ages have been able to learn respect, discipline, fitness, and self-defense from their experienced instructors for over 20 years. Whether you're an adult looking for stress reduction or know someone young who has interest in Taekwondo, the Black Belt Institute is the place to go. The Institute takes a fun approach at teaching the rules of self-defense, instilling in their students an I-can-do-it attitude. Interested in taking a class? Call them at 732-205-9797 or visit their website at blackbeltinst.com. Once again, that's 732-205-9797 or blackbeltinst.com. The Black Belt Institute, Metuchen's leader in martial arts and fitness. The MHS Pawdcast is also sponsored by Allstate Insurance at 63 Pearl Street in Metuchen. Allstate, are you in good hands?
Welcome back to the MHS Pawdcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School. I'm Josh Hyman.
And I'm Eddie Kalegi.
The winter sports season is off and running in the month of January and has been very successful for several MHS teams. Starting with the girls basketball team, they are off to their best start in this past decade, currently sitting at 5-0. How have they turned things around so well?
Yes, so I broadcasted the game on Saturday. Really strong performance against Dunellen. Dunellen came back a couple times, but they were able to prevail 70-63. They already have 3 wins in the GMC, which is actually more than last year. Last year was a big struggle for this team. 7-18, 2-10 in conference play.
So they're already doing better. That's very impressive.
Yes, and they've won both of their road games. They won at Carteret and at Timothy Christian, and they played terribly on the road last year, but Molly Maleg is really the leading factor on this team. She's averaging 18 points per game. Chase Clavon is hitting 3 3-pointers per game. She hit 4 in Saturday's contest. Sam Anton nearly at a double-double now. She's averaging 10 points, 8 rebounds. Sophomore Marin Boucher and a couple of freshmen even are contributing. Zoe Brown, Charlotte Breen. The team is very deep. They have a lot of different players that they use in and out of the rotation. They do have some tough games coming up, though. They take on St. Thomas Aquinas, Middlesex, some other teams within the division. So we'll see if they can maintain, but right now 5-0, really great start for them.
Yeah, we talked about especially Molly Maleg last year a lot, and we talked about how she was such a person to watch. But as you look through it, this girls basketball team, it seems to have a lot of young talent, a lot of sophomores, a lot of freshmen really shining and sticking out in the court right there. And the boys, on the other hand, have struggled. They currently sit at 1-4, getting blown out by St. Thomas Aquinas in their first conference game Friday. What must they improve upon to turn things around?
Yeah, a bit of a surprise. We had a lot of high hopes with a couple transfers joining the team that they were going to be really solid this year, but it's been a bit of a poor start. The one good thing they can look forward to, they've had a lot of road games to start the season. 7 of their next 10 are here in Metuchen, so that could definitely help. I came to their 2 home games so far, Carteret and JP Stevens. JP was their only win. And overall, I feel like the offense has lacked cohesion. They've had a lot of possessions, and you saw this when we did the JP game, where they hold the ball for really long, and then they're forced to take a really uncomfortable shot, often like a 3-pointer from the corner. Really not very high percentage shots that they're taking, so they got to work on that. Luke Schleck is having a very good season, but the rest of the offense, I mean, they have not scored more than 60 yet in a game. They've only gotten more than 55 once, and they only have one player averaging at least 10 points per game. Dom Schiappa, Michael Piavosa, Jai Trier, Logan Bryce, all below that mark. They all need to step up in this upcoming stretch.
Yeah, definitely, and especially looking back to those games at home, they did not use their height to their abilities. What they did was they would get a very impressive steal sometimes, and then they just hang out around the 3-point line. They wouldn't try to take a few risks, muscle in or go fast. They would slow the game down, and that's okay when you're winning or when you have good passing and good communication. That's something this team lacked. So what they need to do is, take more risks, get faster, be more aggressive, so they're not just caught awkwardly passing around the 3-point line. And the boys' track team had their first winter meet this past Saturday at Ocean Breeze. How did they fare?
I'll turn it to you in a second so you can add a little more, but this was their first meet. The boys' team, they went over to the Empire State to begin their winter campaign. We talked to Coach Holleran back in December. He said the cross-country team this year was a step up from last year, and he wanted to see the same thing with the winter track team, just see growth from year to year. And I mean, a solid performance. The 2x2 team came home 8th overall, 4x8 was 10th, and the greatest bright spot, the 2x4 team, came home home 4th overall. Josh, obviously, you're with the track team. Not much going on in the throwing end of things, but I bet you could add a little more to this.
Yeah, aside from a small meet tomorrow for the throwers, there's not much going on. But the meets like this, the meet like the Ocean Breeze meet, are so vital, especially this early in the season. You want to figure out who your go-to guys are, what they're doing, and you also want to qualify for those bigger meets, the Millrose games, maybe Penn relays down the line. And, with the season coming to a close, with the sectional meet coming up, GMC relays coming up in the next week, actually, you really want to make sure your team is solid. You want to make sure you know who you're going to go to. So it's very important that your team takes these meets seriously and gets the times they need.
Definitely.
The wrestling team has a very nice weekend as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they came home 2nd overall at the New Providence Pioneer Meet. Yet another building block on this program that was so low a couple years ago, but Coach Kegel has progressively brought them up, and now really strong performance to start the season. 9 different Bulldogs achieved top 4s in their respective brackets. Jaden Kearns, Fran Rosater, Kobe Williams, and Tyler Haynes all earned silver medals, and they now look forward to their first home meet of the season this Tuesday. Their home meets, they had a lot of people coming out to the meets last year that were here in Metuchen. They hope the support from the Bulldog faithful continues this year, but once again, a really great start, finishing 2nd at the Pioneer meet. Really great start for their season, and it'll be interesting to see how they do in GMC play starting off now on Tuesday.
Yeah, definitely. Out of all the winter sports teams, the wrestling team is definitely the one to watch here, and it's amazing what Kegel has been able to do with his team, and kind of give it the life it needs and it really deserves. And speaking of all these other sports, what else is happening?
So, Saturday, there was everything going on Saturday. You had girls basketball, boys basketball. We had the Ocean Breeze track meet, the Pioneer, New Providence Pioneer wrestling meet, and the swim team had their Pirates meet for the boys and girls swim teams, who are both off to excellent starts right now. They both sit 5-0 overall and have won 4 of their first 5 meets by at least 20 points. For the girls, Bridget Thomas, the junior, has led the way. The boys have a lot of different good swimmers, all the way up from the senior down to the freshman class. Alan Sia has really helped lead the way for them. We didn't know what to expect because Julian Park graduated, but a lot of boys have been able to fill the void. Moving on to the Metuchen Edison joint hockey team, we talked about the red hot start. They've sort of come back to the pack a little bit, but they're 5-5 still. They've played some tough games. I was talking to one of the players, Jacob Cherry, actually, about this. They've played 2 games against top 10 teams in the state recently, so the schedule has definitely gotten tougher.
Yes, definitely.
Still 5-5, vast improvements from last year. They had 1 win last year, and they've already gotten 5, and it's still only the first week of January. They beat South Brunswick twice, once at South Brunswick, once in a home game. So, they're still doing really well, and coming up on the schedule in their next 5 games, they play Kearney twice and Colonia once, and those were the 2 teams we talked about that they probably had the best chance of winning against, so they got a good chance to get back over the 500 mark, especially with these next games coming up against Kearney, 2 out of the next 3. And lastly, the cheerleading team, which has also been revamped here at Metuchen High School, they had their first competition in Woodbridge back on Sunday, and they finished 2nd overall, so shout out to them, and they've got a lot of big competitions coming up the next few weeks, so overall just a lot of good stuff happening in Metuchen High School sports.
Yeah, definitely. And I've noticed with all these teams getting new coaches, new staff, new equipment, and a new team essentially at Metuchen High School, this school is really starting to invest a lot in their sports programs. And personally, I think that's a great thing. I think it's amazing when a school can provide that sort of athletic competition, especially our school, which is so small. We have so much going on during the winter, and there's really something for everyone if you want to play a sport. And just going back to the hockey team for a second, although they kind of died down from their fiery start, this is still a great improvement. Like, we have to remember here, 1 game last year that they won, kids from 3 different schools that probably don't see each other a lot during the day or during the weekends or whatever, and Giddis is able to take them to 5-5 so far. And in terms of going 500, like you said, I don't think that's a problem. I don't think them keeping at least to 500 is a problem. I think Giddis has a great team here. He's played, granted, a few rough games, but that's in the past. He has an easy schedule in front of him. And talking about the swim team, they're pretty much expected to do well every year. Coach Thomas leads his team to victory time and time again. And it's odd, we don't really hear much about them. There's a lot of hype surrounding the wrestling team, a lot of hype surrounding, the track team. You don't really hear much about the swim team, but every year when we talk about them, they seem to do great.
Mm-hmm. They always fly under the radar, but they're always one of the premier winter sports teams. And going back to what you were saying about the whole athletics program as a whole, you've got to give a lot of credit to Athletic Director John Cathcart and everyone else in the administration who have really invested a lot into these teams. Because if you think about our freshman year and where the sports, specifically the winter sports, have come from freshman year to junior year over these past 2 years.
It's amazing,
It's amazing how much growth, especially the hockey team and the wrestling team.
Yeah, and with the track team, they got new uniforms, everything was standardized. During the meets freshman year and some parts of sophomore years, kids would be wearing their team t-shirts. They'd be wearing the merchandise that they bought themselves. And say what you will about the uniforms, they're very unflattering. I'm going to be very honest with you.
But they're uniforms.
But they're exactly. They're uniforms. And, talk to anyone who's worn them. They're not great. Nobody likes them, but at least we all look the same. At least we all have something to wear as a team. And, that's definitely a step in the right direction. But I agree with you. Just like in 2 years, sports have done a complete 180 at MHS. There's a lot more interest in it. There are a lot more teachers and staff and students putting more time into it. And I think sports are just great to have at schools because it brings everyone together. It brings athletes together. It brings the students together as spectators. They're all rooting for their friends, their classmates. It's a really great thing to see because not only do you compete, not only do you get to show off in front of your friends, you get to become physically stronger, emotionally tougher. You grow mentally. You forge friendships that you probably would never be able to have if you just went along the school day. It really helps kids grow, and it helps kids grow in a way that you just can't do in the classroom. So I think it's a great thing when we can have a really vibrant and diverse sports at our school.
Yep, the athletics keep improving, and we'll keep bringing coverage. So that's about all the time we have on today's edition of the MHS Podcast. But thank you to Ms. Wisniewski for joining us for the trivia show. I'm Eddie Kalegi.
And I'm Josh Hyman.
We'll see you next time. This is the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS.